To life's adversity, thank you. To the challenges, the ones I hated in the moment, I am beyond grateful. They became invaluable. Those moments that forced me to be more than I was. Step out before I was ready so that I could arm myself for the path that was meant for me. Thank you to those times I was afraid. You taught me that the darkness is never as bad as our thoughts make them out to be. And when we learn to trust ourselves, we realize that fear becomes strength. Thank you to those times I fell short of expectations, the times I didn't quite hit the mark. You taught me that it's not about me, it's not personal. It's about taking that awareness and going at it again more intelligently. Thank you to the times I felt alone, the times I didn't get the support I hoped for or anticipated. You did two things. You reinforced the value of an effective, committed team, but you also emphasized that if that candle's going to stay lit, it's going to be because I commit to keeping it lit. And when tempted to point out and blame the external world, I must pause, reassess, and focus on the world within. Thank you to those times of stagnation, the valleys of despair, of uncertainty. You reminded me that momentum has to be manufactured, and the answers we need are never big or complex. They are small and they are simple. We are always one step away from getting back on track. Thank you to the unexpected setbacks, the from out of nowhere obstacles. You taught me that the trials and the tribulations, they are not the exception, they are the rule. That success isn't running from them, but learning to deal with them. There's a saying that life is 10% what happens to us and 90% how we react to it. Thanks for showing me to allocate my energy to the reaction. Thanks for the times I looked around and couldn't find a conceivable way, the times things seemed helpless and hopeless. You taught me that even in our darkest moments, there is an answer, that I am capable, I am strong enough. And who would have thought that all these things, all these situations I would have loved to run away from were a gift more valuable than any other? Who would have thought that predictability and comfort were wolves in sheep's clothing, that danger is never the obstacle? It's in thinking you've been slighted by life when the obstacle arrives. In reality, every setback is a chance to be more, to step into that future self, to live life. It is from our struggle that we acquire our strength. From our pain, we find just how far we can go. So to these challenges that made me who I am, thank you for the insight, the lessons, and the evolution. Thank you for showing me what no success could ever have shown. This is it. Every step in the journey has taken you here. Triumph, the defeat, the ups and the downs. The times you went through hell because you knew at some point, at some time, it would be the difference, and now is that time. Someday is knocking at the door. And people, they'll talk numbers. They'll speak in absolutes. They may even question your right to be here. Good. here is when most falter. When the fearful run and the timid hide, but not you. In fact, it's from these very ashes of improbability you will raise your flag. From their doubt, you will build your empire. Yes, you will be tested, but you've proven you'll find a way, and you will feel pressure, but you know you're made to rise to the occasion. See, that feeling in your chest, that life coursing through your veins, it's your body coming to terms with what your brain already knows. You were put on this planet for right now. You sacrificed for now, fought for now. You bled for right now. This is no coin flip or testing of fate. It's a coming out party. One where the answer need not be constructed. See, you've already built it, brick by brick, day by day, night by night. It's not a time to rebuild, it's a time to be who you know you are. And if you can do that, if you can find the courage to do that, it will be more than enough. The most feared warrior knows that victory is not dependent on those looking at him across the battlefield. Their swords can't pierce what you've built. Their shields can't deflect the inevitable. This is your day. It's your time. The will that lives within you, it's the preparation, the self-belief in the heart. It's why you will rise. It's why normal does not apply to you. Because normal was the stepping stone along the way. Normal was the discipline to show up. It was the commitment to trust in the process. Normal was every second you wanted to take the easy road and didn't. And from those moments, from the normalcy of the day-to-day, from the very heart of the unspectacular, the extraordinary is born. From this process, you have emerged, chiseled from stone and prepared for anything this world will put in front of you. You'll find a way. Look, I'm not asking you to become something new. I'm reminding you who you know you already are. Failure, by definition, a lack of success. The definition of success, the accomplishment of an aim or purpose. According to these very guidelines, failing is to be marching toward an end point and for one reason or another, not getting there. Is failure a possibility? Of course it is. There are no definites in life. But failure is also self-induced. It is not an outside occurrence. It's not a coin flip or an event that we helplessly watch unfold before us. It's not up to chance. Failure is a decision. The decision to end that same march that you once started. Just like putting on your shoes is a decision. Just like traveling or running or eating, these are decisions that we make. And when the word is all too frequently brought up in everyday conversation, what's evident is that there is a fundamental misunderstanding of what it means to quote-unquote fail. It's spoken about as though it's something that's projected onto us, as though failure is an illness or catastrophic event, something that emerges and subdues its victims. And speaking of it in such a way misdiagnoses the problem. It's easy to say, so-and-so started a business and it failed. So-and-so didn't make the team, so they failed. But there's more here. One does not fail until they take a step back, look at the situation, and say that it's no longer worth it anymore. You don't fail until the moment you raise the white flag and say, I cannot do this. Because if you're out there, if you're changing, adapting, stretching yourself and your abilities, if you're seeking help, mentors, learning, growing, embracing the struggle, being relentless in your effort, no one can bring that word into the conversation. It cannot exist. If you are moving forward, you are not failing. You cannot be working towards something and failing at the same time. It is impossible. You can have your ups and downs. No one will refute that. You can get knocked on your ass, have moments of fear and doubt, but that is growth, not failure. Growth is taking the uncomfortable and adapting to it, overcoming the obstacles that inevitably get in your way. Failure, on the other hand, is deciding that growth is no longer worth the sweat. Because I'll tell you what, there's always a way to win, and I truly believe that. Sometimes the cost is extreme, sometimes the price is more than everyone around you is willing to pay, but that's a conversation that you need to have with yourself. Just know that if you want it, somewhere there exists a solution, and knowing that is the beginning of greatness. It is the start of success. And as for that question, what if I fail? Here's some insight. That thought is wasted time and it is wasted energy, because as far as your goals go, you pull the strings. You are the writer, you are the director, and you are the actor. Failure only occurs when you write it into your script, when you choose it for an ending. And it is one ending, one of many. It is one approach of many. Once you've started that march towards what's important to you, do not let failure be the choice that you make. Choose growth. Choose the adventure. Choose the long way home. Victory over defeat, the uphill climb over regret. Choose to move forward when most wouldn't. It's the decision you'll always be thankful you made. You pick up a stick and you draw a line in the sand. And on one side of this line is everything that's possible for you. Everything you can have, everything obtainable in your life. And on the other side is what's not. Those things you've decided are sort of beyond the realm of reality. Save for your fantasies, imagination, they're the job, the people, the cars that you walk by and think must be nice. Okay, and you notice that this divide's incredibly reliable. The things you have on the possible side, they remain possible. You reach for them, you gravitate towards them because you identify them as real. Just like the other side of that line is guaranteed to remain the same. Why would you work towards something that's impossible or unobtainable? Why would you waste your time? But now let's experiment. Okay, so you take your foot, you drag it over this line, you erase it. You pick up that stick and you draw a new line, a few inches over. And now a small portion of the impossible things are on the possible side, okay? Maybe the job or the house. And you look down at this new portrait, this new picture, and you see a new reality. Okay, your actions start reflecting this change. You start acting like someone who deserves these things. If you don't believe there's gold under your feet, you never dig for it, right? The hardest part isn't digging, it's convincing yourself that this dream, this goal, this desire, it can be yours. It's closing your eyes and seeing yourself as what you want to be. And that's one of the hardest things for people to do. It's why we stay grounded, because it's literally step one that we miss. You can't begin a journey to something better if you don't believe it's waiting for you, if you don't become it before you have it. And here's what's incredible. That line in the sand, it can be redrawn over and over again. It's never permanent. Every day, you can recreate what's possible just by taking yesterday's fantasies and placing them on your side of the line. Telling yourself that it's part of who you are, it's your identity, and humans always follow through to who they believe they are. Runners run, teachers teach. If you believe you're wealthy, you will find ways to generate wealth. This is power, not magic, where you close your eyes and the world changes. No, this is saying to yourself, okay, I can be this, I can have this, and then living up to it. Changing every day. Staying where you are is not always some dramatic action. It's often failing to realize that you have the world in the palm of your hand. Not watering a seed because you don't have the foresight to visualize what it can become. These lines do not need to exist. They don't need to hold you back. Redraw your expectations, adjust your outlook, and change your world. When you ask people what they think stands between them and their goals, there are some pretty common responses. Inexperience, fear, maybe hesitation, time management. These are obstacles we all have to overcome, right? Certainly they're all valid, they're all very real. And I recently took this question, spent some time with it. In terms of my own progress, I looked back at the past year and a half, starting from the inception of Your World Within to right now. Substantial progress has been made. I'm happy with where I am. But at the same time, there were periods of stagnation where maybe the wheels weren't turning as fast as I'd like them to. So now that some time's passed, I have the luxury of examining my lessons learned. And of all of them, the most important is the realization that perfection is a myth. And not only a myth, but it's deceitful. It's detrimental to success. See, perfection is, by its very definition, flawless. And in theory, that's ideal. That's what we want. But in reality, it's impossible. Our value lies not in chasing around this false idea of perfection, but in making progress. If you succumb to the idea of perfect, you're establishing an expectation that cannot be satisfied. You aren't allowing yourself to dive in, to gain momentum, to take flight, because you're questioning your judgment. You're holding back. You aren't putting yourself out there. If you're not perfect, if your work isn't perfect, you don't want it to be seen. But perfect isn't real. The only way to obtain excellence is to move with what you have right now. No, you won't be flawless, but you can improve every single day. There's great benefit to creating something, throwing it against a wall and seeing if it sticks. If it does, great, that's a win. If it doesn't, you regroup, you reassess, and you throw it again. That's growth. And some growth is always better than no growth.
Over the course of my life, I probably can't count the amount of times I've said the phrase, Rome wasn't built in a day. But I've never found a situation where it applied so directly, because you don't build a city, right? You create buildings, you design roads, and everything converges to become a city. Those sequences of events, trials and errors, growth, that becomes your Rome. So it would be crazy for your expectations not to be managed accordingly. If your plan was to become fit, but you won't even step into the gym because you don't look like Brad Pitt in Troy, you're not gonna go anywhere, right? To get to that level, you need to first allow yourself to be vulnerable, to step into the situation and learn, evolve into that vision you have for yourself. Another example that reinforces this point is an interview I saw recently with Ed Sheeran. He's talking about his first shows, the first music he ever wrote. Playing it for his audience. He still has the recordings, and they're horrible. But that's what got him where he is now, right? That determination, that progress. He wasn't intimidated to get out there and grow. And now we can sit back, reflect and joke a little bit about his journey. Missed opportunity, regret, that rarely comes from going too fast, from being too adventurous. It comes from being too conservative. Whereas when I look at my greatest accomplishments, the creations I'm most proud of, sure, networking, research, experience played a role, but more than anything, it was having the trust in myself to start, to begin, to acknowledge that, yes, I am flawed, but I accept it. Because those flaws are the seeds that enable something truly unique to transpire. And now comes the part I enjoy, right? Where I can take my acquired wisdom and share it with you, because I guarantee every single person listening to this has something they're hesitant to start, to do, or to become. Never lose sight of the fact that a goal takes time. There's something you grow into. But you need to first allow yourself to take that leap, right? As far as I'm concerned, the only perfect thing in existence is the current moment, because it is the first step to everything you could ever want.
I was recently on a flight to Boston, and the plane lands, we're taxiing to the gate, and eventually we get there. The plane stops, the fasten seatbelt light goes off, and as soon as this happens, and I'm sure everyone's seen this, a large number of people in the plane jump up and they go to stand in the aisle, where at that point they proceed to stand there for about 15 minutes depending on where they are in the plane. And I've always gotten a kick out of this, right? Everyone has their thing. This is my thing. I think it's hilarious. You watch people just standing there. They're kind of annoyed. They're cramped. They're reaching over each other to grab their carry-ons and, find a way to stick them between their feet. It's amusing, right? It's certainly not a life or death situation. There's nothing serious about it, but it is a lost 15 minutes of reading or listening to music or whatever the case may be. The moral of the story is that it's a prompt decision made without much thought, and not much value is provided in return. And I turned to my brother who was traveling with me, made a joke. We started talking about, kind of the irrationality of human beings. Why do we do things like this? Our lives are filled with things like this. And we sort of carry on like mindless drones. And then it hit me, right? I'm certainly not immune to this type of thing, and I don't think anyone is. Maybe I don't stand up in the plane for 20 minutes, but there are certainly parallel situations. Which prompts this question: imagine if they can be recognized and weeded out. Like, what are the airplane aisle moments in my life? When am I acting just to act without thinking about it, or doing things that, they're not helping me, but they're around? Maybe because there's this, manufactured urgency I grew up with, or I'm seeing everyone else do it. Like, how many things that I do every day aren't getting me closer to where I want to be? Impulse versus what's best. And they can be small, right? Like, my impulse is to check my phone first thing in the morning, but that's probably not what's best for me. Actually, I know it's not.
But I could easily see a situation where I never think about that or recognize that and just continue doing it. The world doesn't end, but I'm missing an opportunity to be a little better. My impulse is to think and worry about things I can't control. That's my impulse, but that's not what's best for me. And sure, I can see a world where I don't take time to think about that or recognize that and just, mindlessly keep doing it my whole life. But I'm missing an opportunity. These things can also be big, right? Things that we all do. They're commonplace. They're hidden in plain sight. Limiting yourself because of what others might think of you. We hear that so much, it almost feels like a cliche, but we do it, right? If you've ever retracted or not done what feels right in the moment because of that inherent fear, that nervous feeling in your stomach, because you're worrying about standing out or being different, that is your airplane aisle decision. If you've ever made a life choice so that you can feel adequate or feel like you're keeping up with the Joneses next door, that is an airplane aisle decision. If you've ever wanted to or done something to bring others down, right, so that you can stifle the competition, so that your insufficiencies feel smaller, that is an airplane aisle decision. If you've ever spoken or reacted from a standpoint of emotion rather than taking a second to collect yourself, to stop and to think about what's best for you, that is an airplane aisle decision. And these things matter. Because if you truly thought about it, you'd know that when you're old and you're looking back on your life, the great tragedy won't be these little things, won't be these shortcuts or who said what or when. No, they'll be having neglected to live authentically, neglecting to do what's meaningful so that you could appease people that don't care about you. It matters because your happiness doesn't come from the Joneses. And that impulse to fit in, it derails the special gifts you bring to the world. It's cutting out your own feet from under you. It matters because there's always room at the top for anyone who works. And building people up will always come around to be more beneficial than the alternative, than trying to cut people down. When you go out of your way to do that, you don't make yourself better, which is exactly what you need to do. Make yourself better. That's what gets you results. It matters because emotional responses usually aren't the right response. And if you don't take time to think in the heat of the moment, you act irrationally. And you give up a tactical advantage over everyone and everything that happens around you. And my point is absolutely not to call anyone stupid or make anyone feel, inadequate. As I stated, we all have our thing. We all act on impulse, without thinking about it from time to time. There is a point in your life where you do that, whether you like to admit it or not. My point is simply that why don't we take time to think about it? They say simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. And just imagine if our lives could be streamlined to do the things that matter to us, that make us happy, that are productive, and that's it. Our lives would look a lot different. So question your life, question the decisions you make, question the things you do, especially if they're done every day. Almost like a business analyst walking into an organization and studying it, calling out the inefficiencies. In my prior life, I dabbled in that world. And something I learned was that the beauty, the value of a consultant or business analyst is that they come in with fresh eyes, fresh perspective, and then smoothen the process. They get more out of the pieces that are already there. So be that in your own life. Examine, even if it's one or two things, even if it's small. Standing in an airplane aisle, this example is silly. It's small, it's not important, but who knows, removing it could reveal untapped value. It's funny, small things always seem to become big things at some point in time. And that example I gave, not looking at my phone in the morning, that can be big, right? The morning's quiet time. I'm not rushed into problems or focusing on things that other people put in front of me. No, I can focus on what feels right to me. It allows me to collect my thoughts, which allows me to decide how the day will go, which prompts me to conquer the things that matter, which prompts me to feel good about myself and my work, which prompts me to identify as someone who wins every day, and so goes the pattern. It's just about not being blind to your actions. That's all it is. So when you're commuting or you're in between classes or you're at lunch, whatever it is, just take a second. Think about what you do and see if you can identify any of those moments. Work on them. Success is becoming who you want to be. It's defining yourself, not letting the outside world, not letting your senseless actions or lack of clarity define life for you.